This looks like an ad for Hair Club for Men.
All right, everyone, we are live on YouTube.
Your meeting ID followed by pound.
When everybody is, so for anyone who's watching, my name is John Scavelli. I'm the law director for the city of Worcester. This is the meeting of Wooster Growth. If you are a YouTube viewer, thank you for joining us. You will see on the right-hand side of the screen a place where you can comment. In order to do that, you do need to log into YouTube, and they will ask you to create a channel. You don't really have to do anything other than say, yes, you want that, and then you can comment. If you do want to comment, I will be monitoring those, and any appropriate comments I will bring to the board. Other than that, I will turn it over to Mr. Millay.
Well, hey, thank you very much. To start, we wanted to thank everybody for taking the time out to have a special meeting. This concerns one of the projects that we've been working on for quite some time, which is the Horn Nursing Home project. Before I get started, I just want to double check and see if our chair has any comments before I jump into the first item. And there being none, we did send out the agenda packet with some additional information. Essentially provided is the information that we're sharing to Worcester City Council later this evening, have shared already, and they will be considering. What we're specifically looking to do is to make a modification to our CRA ordinance, which today we do permit abatement for residential properties. However, what we're looking at with the Weaver Custom Homes project is the build out of 10 condominiums in downtown. They are seeking a 12-year, 100% CRA abatement. Originally, this was a project that we were going to tie together to the Ray and Associates building that is planned for this same site. There have been some different iterations of the project has gone through, and the project is imminently ready to close. And the developer for the condominiums, Weaver Custom Homes, has the ability to move forward early and to establish condominiums this year, and even feature this condominium complex in this year's Parade of Homes, which would be a wonderful way to showcase downtown. We have one slight issue, and that is that we are not seeing these condos constructed on a previous home site. The last time that a home had existed on this particular property was about 70 years. In the last 70 years, it's been used as a commercial parking lot. And we also don't have the ability, unlike our previous condo projects that also involved Weaver Custom Homes, as well as Merchants Block, we don't have the ability to practically tie this particular project to job creation as we have in the past. So in order to qualify this project under the CRA's residential program, which is appropriate for condominiums, we would need a legislative change to specifically permit the 100% 12 years on a new site for new construction. And in the legislation that we have before council, we're adding one new item, and that item reads as follows here. Abatement can be up to 100% abatement for 12 years, dependent upon request of the applicant for the new construction of residential single-family dwellings that are individually platted when located in the C4 zoning district, and upon which the cost of new construction is at least $2,500 as described in ORC section 3735.67. So that last portion there is a general state language, but what this permits is for the ability for those condominiums to today qualify under the residential program. Under residential program rules, an application is filed after completion of the project. It does not go to Worcester City Council for review. It is administratively reviewed, and it either meets that specific criteria or it doesn't. That is reviewed by the designated housing officer, which today is yours truly. Someday that can be someone else. And that same application still is provided to the Worcester City School District, as well as the Wayne County Schools and Career Center, with at least 14 days notice before that administrative decision to approve it is granted. And then that application is filed with the Wayne County Auditor, and it's reviewed annually by the CRA Housing Council. Additionally, if there's a decision made not to grant an abatement, that can be appealed to the CRA Housing Council, which we've not had that occur yet, but that body does exist, and it's there to provide that support if necessary. So this this addition will allow some assurances for this project, as they would hope to move a little earlier than we were anticipating, and that's a very good thing. And we're presenting it to Worcester City Council, and hopefully we'll have a decision later tonight. But in keeping with our processes, we're first taking this to Wooster Growth, because Wooster Growth serves as the economic advising authority for the City of Worcester Council. And so
Margot, looks like she has a question, Jonathan.
yes.
I'm trying to figure out which is my right hand and my left hand. I'm all muddled up here on this. Would you read the language of the statute again, please? The proposed statute.
The proposed item that we're planning to have is, this would be under section 4D. Abatement can be up to 100% for 12 years. I apologize. Abatement can be up to 100% abatement for 12 years, dependent upon the request of the applicant. Stop here for a moment. This is because Weaver Custom Homes has agreed to a 50% request as opposed to a 100% request.
So it would be the homeowner who would be requesting this, presumably.
Correct.
Okay, go on.
And we would normally expect that, like all of our other residential programs, to be at 100% request. But to give ourselves the flexibility so that we could work through a project like this where there's a request for less, we've added that little extra line in there, dependent upon the request of the applicant. For the new construction of residential single-family dwellings that are individually platted when located in the C4 zoning district, and upon which the cost of new construction is at least $2,500 as described in ORC section 3735.67.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So I'd like to open it up for comments and questions.
Anyone?
I'll jump in here real quick just to add a little bit of explanation. Jonathan and I went down and visited with Merle Stutzman here on Friday of last week because we want to make sure that this project moves forward as rapidly as possible. We as a group were not anticipating this coming first out of the block. In fact, as Jonathan mentioned, we haven't even closed on the sale of the property to the Weaver Custom Homes and Ray and Associates at this point. I think that's coming up later this week. But when Merle said that he wanted to have these properties available for the parade of homes, we wanted to do everything within our power to try to move it quickly forward so that he could get going without risking the chance of losing the abatement, because he started the project before it was actually granted by City Council, which we're hoping that will happen tonight. So just a bit of an explanation there to just sort of chime in with what Jonathan said, but we're trying to be as proactive on a great project and keep it moving forward.
So the digging that's going on down there today that looks like digging into holes is really just preparation?
That is off-site utility work that's taking place, and also demolition work of the existing parking lot that had been there. And our engineering department permitted Weaver Custom Homes to move forward with that for the time being. That will remain off-site utility construction work. Specifically,
so it will not affect their dates then for any of the abatements?
Correct. In actuality, we could actually have this specific request passed much later into the process, but to keep up with our process, both at Wooster Growth and with what Worcester City Council has asked us for before, we are trying to make sure that we have this taken care of before actual construction will begin.
Excuse me, everyone, just if I can interrupt for a moment, just from a procedural standpoint, Lynn just reminded me that we have not taken a roll call. So
I was wondering.
we do need to do that for the record. So if we want to go ahead and do that now.
Okay, let's get started because there's some phone numbers on here. I don't know who they belong to. So Margot,
Yes.
Tom,
Here.
yes, Andre Dordia,
Virtually here.
John Scavelli,
Here.
John Ansel,
Here.
Bob Brenneman,
Here.
Mike Beitendijk, Andrew Dutton,
Here.
Bob Berlinski, Joel Montgomery,
Here.
Bob Reynolds,
Here.
Bill Sharon, Justin Starlin,
Here.
Mike Steiner,
Here.
Michael Tefts,
Here.
Fred Troyer, and Jonathan and Lynn.
Present.
Okay, that's all I needed.
Thank you, Lynn, very much.
Uh-huh.
Okay, did you have a question, Andre?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Barry just Saley waved at me. Sorry. Hi, Chief.
All right. Are there other questions for Jonathan?
Jonathan, just, I mean, I guess it's clear as day there, but this is just limited to C4. And which is just the downtown area,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
And, correct me if I'm wrong, but, I see this as being more of a merchant's block type of development as opposed to a greenfields development that's going to probably attract young families. This is going to be more for probably retirees and senior citizens in all likelihood.
What I understand, it'll be a mix of demographics, but it is on a site that is considered urban infill and urban renewal, taking place at a location where the taxpayers have already invested and continue to invest in infrastructure.
Thank you.
Yes, Justin.
Yeah, so Jonathan, was the residential incentive also extended out into the 585 area when we did that? So for just single family residential out in that new area, would that require approval, or do they just need to submit a document to you similar to what is downtown? Are you sure? Can you clarify with that?
Yes, from our understanding of how the legislation is set up today, we will need to make additional adjustments to include the 585 corridor. We are in the process of wrapping up a few different items, and we anticipate bringing that to Worcester City Council, possibly through a committee meeting if possible, to share those details. But from our reading, we have historically provided the residential CRA in cases where we've had an existing home site. And so for new construction sites, it appears, reading through the legislation, that we would need to change that in order to extend it to new construction on a site that previously did not have housing there, as is the case with this particular project. We're focusing on the C4 today to keep it focused on this project, as we do have the Wooster Growth recommendations being packaged, and we'll be presenting that to Worcester City Council, and that'd be an appropriate time to address that when we're looking at the whole territory overall.
Okay,
This
thank
is
you.
still within the state statute permissions. Is that correct, John?
Correct. State statute permissions permit any, they permit any residential development up to 100% for 15 years within a designated CRA. We have the ability as a community to define what those limits are. We don't have to go that high. And as we've worked through, there's evidence to suggest that we really don't need to go that high. So what we're providing today is what would have been provided commercially if if feasible, but certainly meets and would be quite underneath what the state minimums, state maximums would be.
Other questions or comments? Is there a motion to accept the proposal, the proposed change as Jonathan has presented it?
I'll move, Margot.
Okay, is there a second?
I would second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising a hand. Whichever one you can get in front of the camera is good. Okay. Those opposed, same.
Johnny Ensel doesn't have his camera on.
Oh,
My hand's
thank you,
up.
John. Yes, and those who can't see a doggone thing, just say so. Just say aye or nay. Okay, and those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. All right, the motion carries. Now, what's next, Jonathan?
We have, under our agenda, we had other business scheduled for next meeting. We had been talking about a community reinvestment area application, and we do have that available today. And I shared that with folks here a little bit ago. So hopefully you've had a chance to see that. If it pleases the board, we felt that today might be a good time, since we're all here, to present this and talk about it. And if the board was felt comfortable, we could make a recommendation today. Again, one of our roles as a board is to review and make recommendations on community reinvestment area projects. And we have some guests with us today. This particular community reinvestment area tax abatement, which we had included in our correspondence, seeks a 50% 10-year abatement for the construction of an approximately 12,000 square foot new auto body facility near the intersection of Akron Road and Long Road. It involves the investment of about $1.6 million. It would result in providing new space for Caliber Collision, which is currently located at 1119 Old Lincoln Way West, which is Wooster Chevrolet. The company has grown and they're looking for additional space. They would like to relocate their 7 employees from Old Lincoln Way, which is also in the CRA, to this new location at the intersection of Akron Road and Long Road. And in addition, be able to hire an additional 5 people over the next couple of years. So today, I believe that we're joined with Mr. Randall Trahan, who is from Caliber Holdings Corporation, who would be serving as this project's employer, and also Mr. Ron Nagy from Timothy Enterprises, who would be building and maintaining and serving as landlord for the development. So before I jump too far ahead, I wanted to just ask, has anyone not seen the application yet? And if not, would we, I can go through and I can give a quick overview of that application.
Would you please do that? Thank
Right,
you, Jonathan.
Okay, perfect. So as I mentioned before, we had some project metrics there. This is an auto body collision shop, 12,000 square feet. Specifically with the 12 jobs that we're talking about, 5 to be created, 7 to be relocated. We're looking at a payroll of about $908,292, average of $36 an hour. That would be committed and retained within the CRA. It would impact the existing facility that Caliber Collision is renting from Wooster Chevrolet. However, it would not impact the facility that is located in Wayne Township off of Cleveland Road. The particular business is involved with it and has had very high ratings for this, actually, specializing in repairs for windshields, auto glass, fenders, bumpers, dents, painting. And this is a company that has been investing in Northeastern Ohio and has certainly been making a really good popular mark in our market. When we take a look at the CRA project impacts, some of the things we take a look at are based on that $1.6 million investment. We would be taking property that, being vacant today, is generating about generates about $62,000 worth of value. So the annual tax obligation is about $3,500, $3,600. The annual tax obligation after a $1.6 million investment would be roughly $45,000 a year. At a 50% abatement request, that represents an annual savings of about $20,908, and over the course of 10 years, approximately $209,000. This would allow essentially the retention of close to 13, I apologize here. We would have a cumulative income tax creation of about $30,000 over that 10-year period. The post-project abatement, or the post-project, the development would produce $45,000, $412 in annual taxes, assuming current tax rates. Some of the things we do discuss in the report is that in the past, we have not necessarily granted CRA, at least in recent years, to local population-driven businesses, because outside of, that's in the case of outside building restoration or downtown reconstruction projects. And that's because, in part, when the developer is dependent on the local population, the provided economic impacts are very difficult to construct. And that's because we're dealing with a finite market. And some of that job growth may be drawn from existing competitors. That being said, and as we write here in the report, it should be noted that competing businesses should always be welcomed, as they have the effect of strengthening local markets. And especially with the new innovations that this company has proven that it has done, and being able to keep the whole market area in general competitive with other market areas. So that being the case, you see here in our report that we share these metrics. We do add that beyond existing building reinvestment projects, most local and state governments typically do reserve tax incentives for primary industry projects, and in all cases only when necessary. And that's the but-for provision that that without this incentive, the project could not move forward. New primary industry jobs, in turn, they do increase demand and growth opportunities for local population-driven firms. And so with that, that's the conclusion of our report. We do present this to you for your consideration and review, and open it up for any questions. And also in the back.
Thank you, Jonathan. First of all, I'd like to ask, is there anybody on the board who has not had at least 3 vehicles repaired by Nagy Collision over the years for one sort of a thing or another? I can't imagine that that hasn't happened. And we're fortunate that they're willing to and interested in staying in the community, I would think. Are there questions for Jonathan before we would entertain a motion? Okay, I would entertain a motion. Yes, go ahead.
Question. How many other facilities do this kind of work in our community, Jonathan? Do you know that off the top of your head?
We have about 6 different businesses do this type of facility. We have 3 in the CRA, including the current applicant. So there would be 2 other firms in the CRA that would provide similar services.
Other questions? Mr. Nagy, would you like to say anything? Okay.
No, I'm good, but thanks for asking.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Yeah, make a motion to approve the application and submittal as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second, Johnny Insel.
Discussion. I have never seen a more intensely thoughtful group of people on a screen in my entire life. It's just dazzling. It's just dazzling. Okay, hearing no questions, no discussion, I will take a vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the CRA application, please signify by raising a hand.
Aye.
Thank you, John. Sorry. A hand or a voice. All those opposed, please signify by saying no or raising hand. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Justin. I know you work very hard on this, and it's going to be a nice addition out there, I would think. Any other
Thank you very much.
comments?
Margo, I have to recuse myself from a vote on that.
Okay. Lynn, would you note that Andre did not participate, recused
Yep.
himself?
I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, Jonathan, anything else?
At the moment, no, we do not have a imminent need for further business just yet, but we are always working with different projects. And so there is a possibility we may be asking you for another special meeting here before the month is out yet. Otherwise, we'll aim for our normal time, which is the fourth Thursday of the month at 4 p.m. So thank you, everybody, for your time.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Before we say goodbye, I'd like to tell Dr. Tefts and Bonnie, outside of the fact that I'm really unhappy about Bonnie leaving the employ of the department, which I am put out, Bonnie. There's just no question about that. I'm sure Dr. Tefts is even more irritated about it. But nonetheless, I'm sure we were all very disappointed at the ballot turnout and wonder what we can do to help the next time.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
You could help us maybe by trying to find a way to keep Bonnie around for 3 or 4 more years.
Well, I tell you, I've been trying to retire for like 12 and nobody lets me go. So I know the kind of handcuff and foot manacle they use, and I can get you the brand name.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else?
Is there a motion to adjourn or no?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Mr. Mayor if he has anything he wants to say before we adjourn.
Sure. Just one thing. I think we all deserve a little positive news here in this day and age. I just wanted to let you know the hospital received an award called the Leapfrog Award. It was started about 20 years ago. It to account 20. They gave us an A rating, which is the top rating they can give, and it.
We're losing you, Mr. Mayor.
Indicators and 6 different.
No. It's getting lost.
Things like
What kind of internet does City Hall have? That's not good, man.
We have something called dial-up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sorry. So there is a motion. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Ansel, how about you?
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Okay, great. Second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you all very much. And we are adjourned. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.